So this is the recordproduction.com interview, and we're delighted to be in Dan Carey's studio. Hello, Dan.
Right.
This is very lovely. How long have you been in this room?
About 3 years.
Right. Should be good.
Yeah, I used to be down in Brixton for. Was there for.
You're from London originally.
Yeah. And I had a studio in Brixton for about 8 years.
Right.
That's up with Nick Mulvey, but it was very sort of bunker-like, you know.
Yeah.
Tiny, square room.
Right.
Really bad sound.
Well, this is fairly square, but I see you've done a bit of.
Yeah, we did
treatment.
we did quite a lot of work. We brought the ceiling down.
Oh, right. And is there soundproofing going on as well as treatment?
Not really. No, I mean, obviously there's that wall is a double wall, and it's kind of a metre away from the front. So,
I see. Right.
And well, it's detached, the house, so it's not too much of a problem with the neighbours.
Oh, right.
There is a slight problem that the sound goes through the floor and out the air bricks.
Ah.
So if there's a whole band,
yeah,
it can get a bit.
You get on the right with the neighbours, though, I presume.
Yeah.
Have you got any upstairs then?
Oh, I live upstairs.
Oh, that's your house,
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. That's handy.
So, yeah,
So you fall out of bed.
Yeah. Down the stairs.
Straight into the studio. And do you use other studios still, though? Presumably, when you're working with bands, you go to big expensive studios.
No, I try not to.
Try and do everything here.
Yeah, the whole kind of philosophy behind the place is to try and make it feel like recording around at someone's house.
Yeah.
You know, even though I've got all the gear that you'd have in a big studio, it just doesn't really feel like a room. I've got this slight thing with, like, I've always had it from when, you know, I've like played in bands and stuff. I'd sort of make good demos at home, and then, you know, the big day would come where you go into the studio, and it just puts it makes everyone a bit nervous, and you just play differently, and everything's, you feel that you should do. I've always found if I'm mixing or recording in big posh places, that it makes me do it in a different way. I sort of think I ought to do it better and like be more careful about things. I prefer.
It doesn't improve it.
Being in an environment where I can just.
Yeah. I'll just pause one second. Are you picking up any audio at all?
Yes.
Oh, good, because I was in pause stupidly
That's
until then.
right.
So I need a bit of your audio as well.
Yes.
Sorry, bunch of amateurs we are.
Do you want me to record it?
Yeah, probably better, wouldn't it?
Get
a professional involved.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I've done stuff with bands in. I don't know. It makes people nervous, I think. So the whole thing about here is that, I mean, I use this as the live room, obviously, and so the thinking is that anything that makes a noise is in the machine room. All the
right. So you got another
tape
space
machines
out
and
there
the computers and all
stick an
that.
amp or something.
Yeah, but no, the way I like to do say I'm recording the band, is, you know, just no headphones, just point the amps in the right, so that everyone's happy when they're playing, and then just kind of work around that. Because I think that everything sounds better if someone's playing an instrument and they think it's amazing.
Yeah.
The actual sound will be better than they'll play the music. Everything's better. So I try and set it up like it's a rehearsal almost.
Yeah.
You know, like
so people generally don't wear headphones in here.
No. Keep the amps reasonably. So I've got loads of small amps.
Yeah.
They're just my favourite things because you can drive them quite hard, but they don't make too much noise.
Right.
And so I just, you know, sometimes I have amps here. You know, one pointing at the drummer to, you know, for a monitor, and I often do bass here.
Right.
You know, like you can see it's kind of where they normally sit, and you get a sound, and it just moves people if they want to. If the guitarist wants to hear more of something, it just kind of, we'll go and stand there and go and get everything, and I'm in the room as well.
Yeah.
And
you find you can get sounds happily like that without hearing through monitors properly? Or?
Well, I mean, it takes a bit longer because you have to record a bit and play it back and see if you like it. But I think that's a more accurate way of judging something, rather than, you know, either in a separate room and not being able to talk to them, or on headphones or anything like that.
So did you do Franz Ferdinand album here then?
No, we did it in a really similar way, but in Glasgow. And they've got exactly the same thing about studios, and they just hate it. So they've got this rehearsal room in.
Did you take a lot of your gear with you?
Yeah, I took that rack, and then all the mics and you know, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So they've got this rehearsal room which is in Govan Town Hall. So they've got the room like about twice the size of this with with a desk in it, and so we do quite the recording there, and then for a different sound we'd go and record in the big hall, and then under the stage in the hall for another sound, but the whole thing was no kind of none of the sort of structure of a studio, so we just wheeled a rack of preamps in, and we took the radar and just moved it around wherever we recorded. Yeah.
Brilliant. How does it work though with guide vocals? Presumably they're not really ever usable, or if they've got so much spill going on. In the same room as the drummer.
Yeah, don't really do guide. I mean, like, what I prefer to do is just rehearse so that.
So you know what the vocals are going to do.
Yeah, and everyone knows what I don't really like doing. If people don't quite know the song, it's not going to work.
Doesn't work quite so well. Presumably then, after you've got a take, one of the first things you'll do is stick a vocal on.
Yeah, just try it out.
And do you tend to do lots of takes and then chop the best ones together, or?
I don't really like doing that. I like to. What I normally do is practice once or twice to get the vibe. Then sort of hype everyone up. Like, okay, do it. Then do a couple of takes maybe. Then pretend I'm just about to run out of tape.
Yeah.
One more take. Because I always record on the 2-inch on the 16 track. For that. I mean, this is like in a band. I mean, it's obviously it's different for different things, but this album I'm doing now, the Jolene and the Jing Jang Jong, we're doing it that way. It's all on 16 track, and once they're ready to do a take, we just do 3 takes and choose the best one.
Yeah. Do you get into any? So you then bung it into the computer or into?
Yeah, then put it in through the ADA into Logic at 96, and then do.
What's the ADA? Is that the?
The radar. I think it's like the 24.
Yeah. It's quite a new thing, isn't it?
Yeah. It's really good.
Right. And then you're a Logic man, are you then?
Yeah.
Do you do any corrective surgery to drums and things, like beat detective-y kind of things, correcting, quantizing at all, or? No,
not quantizing. I do, just sonically, I do quite a lot of gating, very hard gating.
Yeah.
So that it almost sounds like a drum machine. I like the strip silence thing, so that the snares just. But then there's it might have an overhead.
Yeah.
But I try and keep the mics to a minimum. On the drums, this is my current favourite setup with just the 4038 by the tom, the Lomo on top, then an RE20 and the sub kick on the kick, and then a mic under the snare.
Right.
Which is the one under the snare gets really gated completely.
Yeah. What have you got under the snare?
There's Audix, something or other, I'm not sure.
Jolly good.
We kind of swap them around.
Yeah.
I try not to stick to the same. Like, I'll get into a kind of thing of like, oh, this sounds brilliant, but then after a few songs like that, I'll just scrap it and just try it all different, so that I don't get stuck in a pattern. I quite like changing methods as often as possible.
Right.
So, I mean, at the moment I'm really into recording on tape and then going to the computer, but probably in a couple of months I'll be like, no, I don't like tape. Or I'll put it on tape afterwards or something, I don't know.
Do you reuse the tape then? Do you just do stuff and then reuse it for other artists?
If we're doing it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's nice to
just
record on tape and just mix off the tape.
Yeah.
But, and in that case, I'd probably keep it. But it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
People aren't really used to the idea that they have to pay like whatever it is, 150 quid for 15 minutes.
Yeah. Do you run at 30 IPS and no Dolby sort of?
Sometimes. I think more often probably at 15 actually. More bass.
Yeah. Do you work? You've got an engineer here, I gather.
Alexis. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you work with him most of the time then?
Yeah, always.
He does all the running around and changing the reels of tape and things.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
But you've got quite a engineering expertise as well.
Oh yeah.
Haven't you? So.
No, we go. Yeah, I mean, it's good having. I mean, the two of us kind of get quite. We zone in on the sort of fine points. It's fun.
Excellent.
But it is nice when. I think there's two sides to the whole business. One is the kind of very technical thing of knowing how to get a sound or how to construct a mix or something, but I kind of rely on Alexis, because when I'm actually the other half of it is, well, the musical thing, kind of, just deciding what chords should be where, and if it's not that, just relating to the band or the artist or whatever, and you kind of have to stop thinking about all the technical stuff. So
it's handy if you've got somebody else to.
We'll sort of have a chat about what approach we want to take, and then Alexis can go off and do that while I kind of convince the singer that they can sing.
Yeah. What's Alexis's second name for the record?
Smith.
Right.
The way this the room is set up is like, it's what, when I was a kid, it's what I thought studios were like. I thought there'd be someone who could play all the instruments and just had all of their stuff around in a big circle, and so I just kind of collect all this stuff.
And you play everything, don't you?
Yeah.
You do a bit of everything.
Yeah. And so the piano and the kit. It's quite nice to have, working with bands, to have a kind of a selection of guitars and stuff. That I picked that up from Franz Ferdinand. I've had quite a few guitars for a while, but when I started with them, I went to their place in Govan, and they've just got so many guitars. I was just like, oh my god, I just couldn't believe it. And so many amps as well. And Alex knows everything about amps, and if you're talking about how to get a certain sound, he'd be like, oh yeah, I'll get this telly and plug it into that. Is that right?
Brilliant.
And so since then, actually, I've started buying more amps. That little red one and that black one and the brown one. I've all got since doing that, because it allows you to kind of construct a more kind of layered sound without EQing things. This is, I think, don't really like just recording 3 guitar tracks, say, and then EQing them to be different. If they just are different, it's much better. So
right,
I'm gonna just carry on until I've got amps everywhere.
But some would argue that the new Franz Ferdinand album that you've done is more keyboardy than their previous recordings, rather than being guitar-y.
It's got more keyboards.
That's your influence, presumably, is it?
Not really. They just felt like it. They've got some really good keyboards.
And is that them programming the keyboard sounds and things, or do you dial up a preset?
We just kind of all sit around twiddling things.
Are there many soft synths involved, or is it all real stuff? It's all
one, actually. Later on, there was 1 or 2 parts where we did stuff in Logic. But no, the whole thing is that they've got this, again, amazing collection of keyboards, and so we just had a laugh, plugging, seeing what happens if you plug that into that. And we did a lot of playing. We'd sort of loop part of a track and just, Nick or Alex would just play and play and play and play and play.
Right.
And just take out little bits. And
I see.
Kind of,
so. Until something magical happened. Is there any sequencing going on where things are programmed as little musical sequences?
There's in Lucid Dreams, there's a bit of sequencing, but mainly it was all live, because we tried not to use clicks where we could, so kind of not much.
Because it all sounds pretty solid. Presumably he's just a very good drummer.
He's an amazing drummer. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
But you could. There was one. I can't remember exactly what happened. We'd kind of recorded a drum take. I think we might have then played another one back next to it. There was no click, and they just played like they were in sync. And he can triple track the drums as well, with all the fills and everything. So if he's done one drum take, and you're like, oh yeah, can you just double track that? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Just everything. And you pan that left, and then can you do that again? It's like, and pan that right. It's like, oh my god.
But I suppose it's also the advantage of using fewer mics is it's easier to do experiments like that, isn't it? Otherwise you end up with millions of tracks. So.
Yeah, I hate that. And also, we were doing it on Radar, so you've only got 24 tracks.
Right.
So what I do for that kind of thing is record the main kit with a few mics, mix it down, save that project, mix it down to a stereo, and then overdub the other tracks just with one mic. Really.
Right.
Yeah, I've got subsequently I've got very interested in in multi-track drum takes.
Interesting.
Yeah, good, yeah.
Would you say you're mainly self-taught then in the art of production, engineering, and recording, or who did you learn the most from on your way?
Nick Manasseh.
Right.
Who I don't know. Are you familiar with him?
Not really, no.
He's a reggae producer, dub.
Right.
Producer, mixer, and I used to do session guitar for him, and I think he produced. I was playing in a band. He produced that, and we got on really well. And he's like, "Oh, you come and do some reggae stuff?" And I hadn't never done reggae sessions before,
right.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, your style would be really good." So I went down. He had this place in Brixton. And then he'd kind of let me just sit around watching him mix, and I'd just be like, "Why do you do that?" And it's taught me the whole kind of thing, but from a from a dub perspective, well, you always have to have your delay coming back onto a channel next to the thing so that you can go like this, and you must have a spring reverb, and all this kind of thing, and just that the way that he did it just became the correct way to me.
Right. So it's a fairly unconventional way of learning, I suppose, compared to if you got a job at Abbey Road or something.
Yeah, completely. And I'd sort of, at the same time I had a studio at home. I kind of, I've literally always been obsessed with it. Since I was about sort of 7, kind of like bouncing things from one tape recorder to another and stuff. So I've always kind of had quite a mind for it, but when it came to sort of actually making record, I hadn't really made a record before. I'd sort of done stuff, but not really know what to do with it. But he actually sort of, it's like, no, if you're making a record, when you're mixing for vinyl, you mix like this, and you do it, and sort of showed me all this stuff.
Right.
And then, and then I moved to Brixton, so that I could be near him, and then we set up this studio together, and so it was really good.
Yeah.
And he's moved to Somerset now, but
right.
So I don't see him so much, but he still does remixes and stuff.
Right.
If I'm working on a track, that would be good for him to send it down.
Yeah. So how come you had a tape recorder at home when you were 7 years old?
I just loved all that stuff.
So is it something your parents just had knocking about, or something you found at the jumble sale?
I don't know. Yeah, my parents must have had it. Yeah.
Great.
Was nicking my dad's hi-fi stuff.
Yeah.
Like he'd get a new amplifier and like he'd come home and like, "Where's it gone?" That's in my room actually.
Obviously very understanding and easygoing parents.
Yeah.
That's always a help. One thing also listening to a few of your productions is that you're not obviously not particularly a fan of loads of reverb on things, although I noticed the first couple of tracks on the Franz Ferdinand album have lots of reverb in the middle 8 both times.
Yeah, that's because we recorded the middle 8 in the hall.
Right. So it's the sound of the room, is it?
Yeah, we just recorded in the big room.
Great. So did you use a click for that then, so that the tempo would be the same?
No, it's not the same. If you listen to it,
right. It
slows
changes
down.
speed, does it? Alright, I didn't notice, yeah.
I mean, only a bit. I like reverb if it's an actual effect, so a spring reverb to sort of, to sort of do something fun. But I don't really like useful reverb, that helps you get things to the right level.
Yeah. You'd rather get them the right level.
Yeah.
Presumably.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I suppose it is a bit of a cheat, isn't it? Putting reverb, it instantly makes everything sound a bit better.
Yeah, well, it makes it sound more expensive.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it might be some sort of childhood thing. I think I used to get scared of records that had reverb on because they, I don't know, used to be terrified of good vibrations. Really, really frightened by
Yeah,
it.
weird.
I love it now.
Fear of gothic spaces.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got me kind of more into that now, I suppose, ironically.
And you've done quite a bit of co-writing as well, haven't you? I see you've co-written with Lily Allen and Kylie.
Yeah.
How was that? Because it's quite a minimal sounding track, isn't it? The Kylie one.
Yeah, that was pretty. That was hilarious because I was working with Emiliana on her album, and I think Parlophone were trying to sign her, and they as a sort of incentive, I think they said, oh yeah, you could write a song for Kylie, and she was like, okay, yeah, I'll do that, and came to me and said, oh, do you want to do a song for Kylie? And I was like, oh yeah, I love Kylie. Just always had a soft spot for her, and so we did this tune, and we were like, oh no, let's do it, let's not do a kind of pop song, let's do like a kind of super minimal electro thing, and we did it, just did it on the MPC in like probably about 15 minutes, got the whole groove, and then Emiliana immediately came up with the chorus, and then I switched it off by mistake, and we'd lost it, and then we just couldn't remember how it went. And we were like, oh fuck, that was brilliant. And then we managed to get it back, because when she'd done a guide voice, her headphones were quite loud. We rebuilt the whole track, listening off the spill from the cans. You could even make out the bass line. Rebuilt it again in about 15 minutes. Sent it to them, and then they lost it, and then we sort of thought they didn't like it, and rang them like 3 or 4 weeks later, said, did you get that tune? They're like, no, never got it. And sent it again. They're like, yeah, first single. That's brilliant.
And then you recorded Kylie singing the vocal, did you, or on it? Or?
We went, and Kylie didn't want to come to Brixton.
I wonder why.
So we had to go to where was it?
Tulse Hill.
No, is it Townhouse? I think it was a studio in West London somewhere. I can't
A
remember
major
what it was
studio,
called.
anyway.
Yeah. And so we did it there. It was fun. She was really nice. There was someone there. It was a pretty kind of quick session. I mean,
straight into Logic? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you took it home and mixed it?
Mixed it really badly. When I listen to it now, I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe
There's not much to mix, is
Yeah, but it's amazing how wrong you can get 4 things. It's like when I hear it quite. If it comes on in a shop, like a record will finish, and then there'll be like this kind of hum, and what's gone wrong with the thing? And it's like, oh no, it's slow. The vocal's really loud, and it's terrible, but kind of good in its own way. Yeah.
Did alright.
Yeah. But it did teach me that, it's kind of quite. I thought I really would mix it differently if I was doing it.
Do you use a lot of plugins when you're mixing in terms
No.
of processing, or is it all
Never.
all outboard?
All outboard.
Yeah.
I mean, actually no. At that time, never. Now, since maybe since Logic 8 came out, actually, I've kind of just found the plugins a little bit more usable. And also since I've got the ADA converter, the sound, everything sounds a bit better coming out of Logic.
Yeah.
So no, that's not true. I do a bit more with that. And I did some work with LaRue, and Ben and Elliot. Like, they do everything on Logic, and they love the plugin. Every track's got about 10 plugins, and it sounds absolutely amazing. So that kind of like showed me it's okay.
Who was that you saying you worked with?
LaRue.
LaRue?
Yeah. Have you heard any?
No, sorry, excuse our ignorance.
That's #1 single this week.
Oh, is it right?
Yeah.
I'm not really up with this modern pop stuff. Revealing the depths of my ignorance.
You should check it out.
Should have done my research, really, shouldn't I? Yeah.
That's not kind of strictly something to do with me. I did a bit of work on it,
Right.
but they're very into plugins.
Yeah. Yeah, some people are, aren't they? Sort of
Yeah.
obsessed by having every single one. So.
Yeah. I find them difficult to adjust. I don't like it to have, if you want to change something, to have to kind of go into menus and stuff. I prefer to do it just like that.
Bit of real.
Mm.
So you're doing this Jolene album at the moment. How far into that are you? What stage?
Nearly finished. I mean, we've recorded all of it and mixed about half of it.
Right. Do you do sort of a stage of doing the tracking and then a stage of doing the overdubbing and then the mixing, the traditional?
Well, no. Interestingly, with that, I mean, we sort of meant to. We were going to, but the drummer had a problem with his wrist, and the doctor told him not to play for more than a couple of hours a day. And it was really good, actually, because we were planning to sort of do all the drums and guitars, you know, and then do overdubs in the subsequent weeks. But what we've done is just done it track by track. So you just record a song, and then we just take all the mics down and set up different things for it, and then do the vote and everything. And it's good because when you go back to do the next song, you're not the temptation to just use the same setup because it's there isn't there.
Right.
So
That's interesting.
it's come out. I'm sure, like, even with the best intentions, sometimes if you've got a brilliant drum sound and you've just finished doing a song, it kind of makes sense to use it again. But I don't really like it when there's the same sound and all the songs. So yeah, no. Again, it's probably taken a bit longer because of that.
Do you get involved with arrangements and song structures and things? Have you
sometimes
tweaked any of those on this project?
Not so much on Jolene.
Did you do any pre-production? Did you rehearse in a room with them or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, I went to the rehearsal room a few times, but to me, the idea of pre-production doesn't make any sense. I think once if there's a song, you start recording it, and part of the process might be, you know, like, are you sure it needs that bit there? But then I'll just do it at the time. I mean, it's like, I find that record companies always want you to have like a couple of weeks of like pre-production where you're not doing anything, just thinking about it, and then start recording. But it doesn't make sense really. I'll just start doing it, and then.
Well, presumably the calibre of people you're working with generally, they're able to adapt and change as necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's been a really good session actually. The Jolene thing, they're like you say, really able to adapt and try kind of things, and they're just not phased by anything. We've done some absolutely mad stuff. There's one thing where there's one of the songs that we wanted this really kind of fierce guitar sound, and I suddenly thought that it should sound like Sparks, and got a guitar, and and the guy was holding the guitar down, and tuned it to an open chord, and then I got a set of jump leads and connect them out to the car battery, because my car's parked, so I had the two wires coming through the letterbox, and under the door. Then one wire connected to the pegs on the guitar as the Strat, and the other one connected to those wire brushes for drums.
Yeah.
So the other jump lead connected to that, and then when you touch the brush onto the strings, it would complete the circuit, and you get this, and it just set the strings kind of, and there's smoke and sparks and everything. And he was like holding this guitar, like
fantastic.
But he still just did it.
Don't try this at home, folks.
Yeah, we got some good pictures of that.
I'd love to see that. What a great story.
I'm quite into new ways of getting sounds, or anything that's unlikely to have been done before.
Well, it's difficult because most things have been done before, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if you just always try and think of a different approach, then and also I think the important thing is to actually do it as well as just think of it, because there's quite a difference, because you can think, that'd be interesting, but if you And I suppose, yeah, if you're working with people who are prepared to, because sometimes it doesn't work. I'll come up with quite a few ideas, and it takes hours to set off, and it sounds crap. You have to be sort of like.
I suppose that's the advantage of having your own studio is there's no deadline necessarily to.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's I was saying about big studios and kind of that nervousness, and it's also partly because the you're paying by the hour,
What other exciting tips and techniques have you got then? Tell us some secrets.
Oh, this thing. I'll bring it over.
Crikey.
Heavy. This is really cool. You plug the output of a guitar amp into the
speaker.
And the idea is that if you've got the two mics, you kind of set them so they're the same distance from the cone.
Yeah.
And then you mix the signal from the mics together. And the theory is that in an ideal world, you basically get no sound at all because they'd be out of phase. But in practice, you get the kind of like whatever the difference between the movement that way and the movement that way is what you pick up. So it's like
you're just
pure distortion. Yeah. And the louder it is, the more of. So it's just pure.
So all you're getting is the stuff that's going wrong.
It's the sort of deformation of the speaker, and it's an incredible sound. And the interesting thing about it is when you sort of put it into a mix, it sits in the mix. You don't have to have it very loud, and I guess it kind of reminds you of the sound of like when your speakers are blowing or something, and so you have to use it quite sparingly. But but it doesn't sound like fuzz necessarily. I'll play you something with it later on. Yeah. And a couple of people, I'm going to play them this track, just like, how do you get that so dirty, that sound? And that's how.
Brilliant.
And the thing is, you have to, because if you do it quietly, you don't really get anything because the speaker's not distorting.
Right.
You have to do it loud, so it keeps blowing the speaker. So you need to change the speaker. Like I'm going to buy a whole load of
get a box of 144
cheap speakers. Yeah.